Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Just kidding. Welcome to my Hamilton play musical review for quarter two independent reading assignment project for AP Lit. Originally, I was going to review this story that I really liked in 8th grade. I watched some of the animation for it, and I also watched the entire C-drama version of it, but I never read the full version of the book, so I was gonna do that online. But today I just changed my mind and decided to watch Hamilton. So here you go. This is what the cover, I guess. This is what the cover looks like. And let me give a little bit of a background history starter on it. So, title is Hamilton, named after Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers. And the author was Lin-Manuel Miranda. He's a playwright, and it's based on, he's also an actor, by the way, I forgot to mention that. He's the playwright and he's the actor that cast himself as Hamilton in this play. So, he wrote it based on Ron Chernow's 2004 biography of Alexander Hamilton, and the publication was off Broadway in February 2015 and on Broadway in August 2015. Now, because it's less of a reading and more of a watching the almost 3 hour musical kind of thing, I categorized it as Broadway / musical / play. Alrighty, so getting down to business. That was the cover that I just showed, and well, why did I decide to watch it? Because originally I always heard about Hamilton from my friends in class, and although I never really got into the lore and the story of it, after taking different US history classes with dual enrollment and with AP, I started building the desire to want to watch it gradually ever since 5th grade, which is a long time ago. And after seeing memes and animatics for You'll Be Back, the king being hilariously psychotic, I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. So I watched it, and if you want to watch it and to find it, the recorded version of the play is available on Disney Plus. However, I was able to watch the entire live recorded version of the play online on YouTube because somebody posted it. Yay! Somebody from the audience who watched the play actually posted it there. So, very lucky. But I don't know if everybody will be as lucky in the future because, Disney owns it. So, the setting. The setting was the late 1700s in the 13 colonies, which then became the United States. There is the one big stage with the rotating circle the entire time on wood flooring, and it kind of switches between we're going to Alexander Hamilton's house, and then we're in the Caribbean at first. We move on to the room where it happened. And different places such as the First Constitutional Convention, outdoors in the middle of a fight. It's the same general area and vicinity for the stage play, obviously. The musical, I should call it, because the entire thing was song. There was acting, but it wasn't straight up acting, it was song. I can tell this review is already going to be long because I'm almost at 4 minutes and I'm still talking, so apologies. Okay, but that's the setting. I couldn't really specify a specific place because it switches between all of those, but you get what I'm saying. And here's a brief summary. Here's a brief summary with no spoilers. It's gonna be hard to give it without spoilers because I feel like explaining the entire plot is already a spoiler, especially for those who know their US history. But okay, let's start. The brief summary. We start with Hamilton in the Caribbean, and we learn about his childhood, how he grew up, how he became friends with Aaron Burr, the duo, how he became friends with Aaron Burr. They were both orphans. Their parents both died and left them at very early ages, so they grew up with the real hard knocks. And then after that happens, we start to see the other characters come into play, such as Thomas Jefferson, who makes his entrance in purple a lot longer down the line, so that's farther in the play. We also, at some point, once the US starts declaring its independence from Great Britain, we see the king walk in, and that's when he starts singing, "You'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war." I just really like that song, excuse me. So we see the king. The king makes 3 different versions of his song. We also, after that, we meet Eliza and Eliza's sister. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time remembering names right now. Goodness, it starts with a C. It starts with a C. Give me 1 second. They're called the how do I say this? The Schulier. I'm so sorry. The Schulier sisters. Angelica. Okay, it was not with a C. I'm sorry. It was with a. Names are not sticking. But yes, so Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. We don't really see a lot of Peggy, but we see a lot of Angelica throughout the play because for some reason, yeah, there's some. I'm not gonna spoil it because spoilers, but there's some sort of stuff between all of them. Not anything bad, of course, not anything bad, but there's some stuff between Angelica, Eliza, and Hamilton, and la la la. Yeah. So Eliza, Angelica, and Hamilton. I want to say who's in a relationship with who and like what's happening because that's the main part of the plot, but I also don't want to spoil anything. So I'm just gonna go off my brain again. After we meet them, we also meet everybody who's at the Constitutional Convention. Hamilton starts roasting Aaron Burr and I think Jefferson. Everybody was in there. Everybody was roasting each other. He chartered the first Bank of America, making his documents and statements. And there's just so much to cover that it's hard to summarize. So let me go to the thematic concepts. Sometimes situations are out of our control and they're inevitably horrid, but we must forgive each other to move out of the darkness. Politics is a burning fire pit of confusing and heated tensions, drama, and important legal matters. We sacrifice for those who we love. Be best friends with your enemy. For some reason, that was a really big theme of this entire story, and it's because it's history. But I guess that's just how it works. Be best friends with your enemy. If you're gonna be besties with someone, be besties with the opposite party. Like in George Washington's case, historically, and also in the play, he was besties with the Continental Army from Great Britain so that he could train the soldiers and troops in the colonies to create the United States Army, which was super powerful. And then he could eventually give power to Alexander Hamilton to become the secretary for the U.S. Treasury. Yeah. And then what else? Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton. Very central relationship to U.S. history and to this entire plot line. Here's a quote that I really liked. I think it's my favorite, and it's from Aaron Burr. He says, "Let me offer you some free advice. Talk less, smile more. Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for. You want to get ahead? Fools who run their mouths will end up dead." And he says that kind of foreshadowing to Alexander Hamilton, if you know what I mean. Not trying to spoil, but it was really foreshadowing that entire time. And he repeats it multiple times whenever the song comes back on. And that's just like his philosophy. But I think that Aaron Burr should have also taken some of his own advice. Yeah. History Has Its Eyes on You is one of my favorite songs as well. Washington says, "Let me tell you what I wish I'd known. When I was young and dreamed of glory, you have no control who lives, who dies, or who tells your story." Very good song, and also good moral story, especially for somebody in politics in the public eye. Now, what did I like about the book? Well, I really like that Lin-Manuel Miranda put a lot of thought into research for making the musical, and he brought the legacies of the founding fathers to life. He really made each character seem like he really made Is my grammar right? I think it is. He really made every single character feel like they were living and they were somebody that the audience could relate to and understand their family life, their background, their personal story, all of that. This is already over 10 minutes, so I'm really sorry. Um, it's hard for me to wrap up thoughts because there's a lot of detail in here. The King songs are just hilarious that I mentioned earlier. I liked Cabinet Battle number 2 because it was really chaotic, and I just when Jefferson started dancing on the table and then everybody was breakdancing, that was hilarious. Burn by Eliza, relatable, relatable as a young woman, and also just the fact that she finally decides she's like, I thought she was gonna have a turning point and decide, I'm not gonna let this happen to me. I'm gonna be an independent woman. I'm gonna burn all of this and I'm going to rise up and stand for what I think is right and be the woman that I aspire to be. But it didn't 100% happen like that because history is history. And well, this was a time period where slavery was still imminent, it was a prominent thing, and women's rights were debatable, still debatable. So that would explain why it didn't happen. And I feel so horrible for Eliza throughout this because just let me rant about how I don't like Alexander Hamilton. I do not like Hamilton in this play. Oh my goodness. And in history, I didn't know all of this about Hamilton until I watched Hamilton. And then after I watched it, I was really thinking, this guy, no, I'm sorry, I don't. I'm sorry. Personal rant. I don't like Hamilton. But yeah, that was one of her songs. Not gonna spoil anything that relates to that. History has its eyes on you because that's where Washington's giving his little speech about I've been here before. I wanted to be famous and I'm fighting the war and being a good general and all of this. And then I got into the fight and I became the general that I aspired to be. And then I realized history is always watching and you can never control what other people think of you. So be careful, Alexander Hamilton. Yeah, the summary of the song. I kind of like that. And then Washington on Your Side was pretty funny because it's when Jefferson and was it Burr? There are so many people I can't remember who's who, but they were ranting about how Hamilton is in power and it's because George Washington gave him the power to be Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, and they're thinking, oh, it must be so nice to have Washington on your side. It must be so nice to be the chosen one by Washington. It must be so nice. Like all of that must be really nice, you know, because we weren't chosen and we don't like that. And then they start talking bad about him. But later on, they're like, oh, you know what? We're going to get Washington on our side. We're going to do this. Or not Washington, sorry. We're going to get Hamilton on our side. We're going to do this. We're going to win. And it's pretty funny, in my opinion. One really big thing that I liked about it, though, is the fact that they mentioned Eliza carrying out Hamilton's legacy, founding an orphanage, and raising funds for the George Washington Monument. Also advocating against slavery because that was a really big topic of this historical era. And I think the fact that we live in modern era and they casted a pretty diverse cast just shows how modern era is very different from what we had way back when in the founding of the nation. But it's the fact that they mentioned that she was an advocate against slavery because a lot of the time when people look at history, we think, oh, okay, so none of the founding fathers were explicitly abolitionists and this means that nobody cared about slavery and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at it, Washington and Jefferson were both self-contradictory in that sense and in opposite ways. And Hamilton was one of the slightly more vocal ones who wanted to speak out against slavery and express his convictions against it by joining the New York Manumission Society, which is kind of integrated into this musical that we see at the end, where Eliza takes up that legacy. And yeah, it's a hot plate topic because nobody wanted what happened with the Haitian Revolution to happen in the United States. And I feel like people now just talk about it a lot as well. So those were some things that I saw in the play. What I really didn't like from this musical was that at the beginning, I couldn't really follow the narrative because I had to get used to the fact that the entire thing was song and music. So everything was explained through a song instead of just a regular play or with songs and play in between. I was expecting songs with play in between, but apparently I guess I don't know what a musical is because this was all songs. So I learned that, and then I got used to it. After an hour, I understood what was happening. Let's see. What I didn't like as well, I have this typed up on my laptop. Alexander Hamilton. I don't like Hamilton. I'm sorry, he was a horrible father and a horrible husband, and he I don't like. And Say No to This, that song. Okay, the song was good. The singing was good. But why? Why? I'm trying not to spoil, but why? 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 Hamilton, I don't like you. You were no. Okay. And then what kind of person would enjoy this book? Someone who enjoys US history, evidently. People who enjoy theater and Broadway because this is musical. Fans of any of the above, and of course lesbians. So I think that's that. Yeah, and that's it for my book review because this is already 16 minutes. I will try to speed it up if I can edit it and speed it up so that it's 10 minutes or shorter. But yeah, that's my review of Hamilton, and I didn't even get through all of my thoughts because I had so many thoughts about this play. So much happened. I learned a lot more about US history than I thought before, the personal lives of the founding fathers. And I think it's just good in general if you're taking a US history course to watch this because it will help. And that's all I have to say. So thank you for watching my Hamilton review and my rant about why I think Hamilton was a horrible dad and husband, even though he was an orphan and he promised that he would be a good dad like he never had. And I was so emotional. I was depressed after watching this. I wanted to cry. Because poor children, poor child. Not spoiling anything. Okay, bye.